So thanks everybody for joining us on this presentation on the new flash-free version of Realist. We'll be rolling out a brand new version of Realist to Hawaii Central on March 17th, Tuesday of next week, and it will no longer have Flash associated with it. So that's one of the big reasons that we're rolling out the new version of Realist. So next Tuesday, when you do click on any of the links that usually link into Realist for you from Matrix, what you'll be faced with is a screen that looks a lot like this. And the good news, for those of you who are familiar with the Realist product, this doesn't look a whole lot different than it used to look, or than it does look today as you're accessing Realist. We still have the search section over here on the left, quick search tab and my search tab, where you can search for all kinds of different properties that match the criteria you've entered into those different search attributes. And when those properties are returned, they're returned in two places. Over here, push pins on the map, where you can see exactly where these properties are located, and then down here on the grid, where you can get a good look at some of the snapshot information about those properties too. Now, just as usual, clicking in a couple of different places, whether it be on the map or on the grid, is going to get you into what we call a property detail report for that particular home, which is the flagship report in Realist for this property. And then, of course, across the top, we still include those tabbed reports as well: comparables tab, neighbors, neighborhood profile, assessor maps, flood maps, building sketches. All those things will be available for you too. So really, we've put a nice new look on Realist, but many of the things that you're used to seeing, many of the places that you're used to going in Realist to navigate to those reports are really going to stay the same for you as well. So hopefully it'll be very easy for you to navigate. So what we do with Realist, our tax and public record system, is we take maps. By the way, that's one of the upgrades that the new Realist enjoys. We have moved to Google Maps rather than Bing Maps. We still collect property data from all the same sources, whether it be from the assessor's office, whether it be from deeds of foreclosure or mortgage or sales as well. We take your listing data that you've inputted into your listings in Matrix, and we even take information from other sources, I should say. So, for example, U.S. Census data, information from third parties about schools, about businesses in the area. So all those reports are going to stay the same. All of that information put together for you in one nice package called Realist. You're going to get these nice photos, these great looking charts and graphs, wonderful maps, things that allow you to print out this information for your own education, or also to educate your clients on things that are going on in the area too. Let's talk a little bit about the property data that we provide for you within Realist. Taxes and assessments, which are at the heart of Realist, are updated annually. So you will see your taxes and assessments updated once per year in the state of Hawaii. Transactions that we collect include sales, mortgages, and foreclosures. Those types of things are collected much more often than once per year. In fact, we'll show you exactly how often all those things are gathered as well. As for your listing data, we update information about your listings in Realist on a daily basis. So if you make a change to a listing or a photo or a price or a date in Matrix, we're going to pull that information into Realist on a nightly basis, and likely those changes will show up within the next 24 hours. So we're going to capture your statuses, your listing dates, your price data as well. We load your current information about your listing and also your historical listings as well, so you get a complete listing history for each property. We're also going to capture some of the core information that you put into each of your listings. So if you're searching in Realist and you find a property that happens to have a listing associated with it in Matrix, we're pulling in the information that you as the agent put into that listing in Matrix, and we're displaying it right alongside the information that we get for that property from the county as well. Now, a lot of times you'll match exactly what the county says, the listing and the tax roll. But if there isn't a match, we will show you that there's a discrepancy. You know, in some cases, perhaps an addition has been put on a home, the proper permits weren't pulled. The county still thinks it's a certain square footage or has a certain number of bedrooms or bathrooms, but maybe the listing agent has been into that property and sees that it has more. So there can be all kinds of reasons for those discrepancies. We don't tell you who's right or who's wrong. We just show you that there is a discrepancy and where those values are coming from, whether it be from the tax roll or whether it be from the listing as well. Another upgrade for Realist when it comes to these listed properties, and particularly the photos, is now you can upload unlimited photos, or you can actually have unlimited photos in Realist. Used to be limited to 35 photos per listing or per property, but now you've got unlimited photos available to you in Realist as well. The maps are a great place to not only search for information, but also to display information as well. One of the things that helps us search for properties in Realist is the GIS data that we put right over the interactive maps that we get from Google. So we've got parcel lines on all those maps, and we can just click on those rooftops and find out exactly where those properties are located. So some nice features available to you there. We update those parcel boundaries yearly, as we do for neighborhoods, zip codes, school districts, and counties as well. Flood zone information, that's another layer which we'll be showing you in a moment. That is updated monthly. We want to keep that as up to date for you as possible. Points of interest like schools, medical facilities, restaurants, places to shop, places to eat, those are all available to you via from Google Maps as well. We can actually place things on top of those places on the map too. Lots of other data attributes are put on top of the maps, different MLS listing statuses, recorded sales as well. We can show you where all those things are located directly on the maps. We can even show you some larger overarching trends using some heat maps, whether they be aggregated by neighborhood or by zip code, and we can show you where there are higher levels of sales activity, higher levels of foreclosure, lower levels of those things are going to be indicated by cooler colors, higher levels of those things are going to be indicated by warmer colors as well. Realist can be used as a marketing tool as well. I'm going to show you how to print out mailing labels using Realist. I'm also going to show you how to export information out to spreadsheets from Realist too. A couple things that we do in terms of those marketing campaigns. We do scrub our database of addresses against the do not mail list each quarter. So if there are people who've asked not to be reached by mail potentially, we'll allow you to actually filter those out of your mailing lists as well. We're going to geocode all of your parcels each quarter. We've also got the zip+4 and carry route encoding for both physical addresses and owner mailing addresses. So that means if you are trying to reach someone via mail using Realist, you are going to be able to do that as well. School information updated each quarter, and also information about your community and your businesses updated each quarter as well. Another one of the nice new features of Realist is it is a responsive design. There is no need for the Realist mobile app anymore. You are able to view Realist on an iPad, on an iPhone, as you can see, all of your searching capabilities, viewing property detail cards, looking at maps, going through a list of properties. All those things are going to be available to you on your mobile device now. So no need to use Realist Lite or any of those other things when you couldn't find a device that supported Flash. So again, using it on your iPad, on your iPhone, all those things are going to work for you just fine. With that said, that's the end of the PowerPoint presentation. I do want to hop in and start showing you how to use Realist. I am getting a couple of people complaining that they can't hear any sound right now. Is that the case? Can anybody type in maybe into the questions pane that they can actually hear me loud and clear? Just let me know real quick. Okay, sounds like some people can hear us, some people cannot. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Sounds like maybe some other people might be having some technical difficulties with their laptops or their computers. I do appreciate you all letting me know that. So here we are in Matrix. Just want to show you exactly how to get into Realist. Now again, Realist isn't live for you yet. You might notice up here at the top that I am on a staging environment. I'm your staging server in Matrix. But again, as of March 17th, this will be rolled out to your production sites. You won't see what I'm about to show you today yet, but you will be seeing it next week. But I do want to show you again how to get into Realist, and there are a number of different ways once you're in Matrix to get into Realist. So as I'm looking at my search here, I'm going to just do a residential quick search, for example. I've got a ton of matches, and I'll just go and take a look at those results. To get into Realist, what you do is you click on your tax map key up here, either from the one-line view or even from a detail view. So if I click on this link right here, my tax key, it's going to get me to a property detail report first for this property. Now, I'm not in Realist yet, but I am showing you all the information that you do need to see about this property. This is basically your property detail report, taxes, physical characteristics. Here's all the building permits that have been pulled, extra features, estimated values, sales, mortgage, foreclosure history if it happened to be here as well. From here, you can actually click the Launch Realist button to get into Realist itself. There's a couple of other links up there at the top, comparables and neighborhood profile, which will obviously get you into the comparables report for this property or the neighborhood profile report for this property. But once I click Launch Realist, that's going to open up the property detail report in Realist itself. And there it is. Now you can see kind of exactly what it would look like in Realist. Now remember, I'm opening a property detail page behind the scenes. We're still going to map that property, show you exactly where it is, give it to you down here on the grid too. But we opened that Realist up in a new window. Let me close out of that one more time. Matrix is still open in the background. I'm going to click on the MLS number now. And again, also point out that that tax map key is right up there at the top. And if you click on it, the exact same thing will happen too. Last thing I want to show you is if you don't want to come in from a listing, if you just like to get into Realist from Matrix itself and just sort of do some searches yourself, there's always a Realist tax tab up here at the very top. And now I'm not coming in from a listing. That tax tab is always available up there at the very top. And you can see I'm centering in on Honolulu, which is again, or I should say Oahu, which is where I'm going to be doing most of my searches today, obviously. Now, actually, when you hover over, you can see the region of Honolulu has a recording date of March 2nd, 2020. What that means for you is that if you were searching for any information in Honolulu, you wouldn't find any recorded deeds of sale or mortgage past March 2nd, 2020. That's about 1 week behind the current date today. Today is the 9th, which is pretty darn good in the world of public records for us to get all that information processed and available to you in Realist very quickly. Now, you can also do what we call change county, and I know it's not really a concept of changing counties for you. It's just sort of what we call it, since Realist tends to be a county-based system in the rest of the country. But you can see we've got the other islands available for you here too. And as you click on those, you can say each of those have their own individual recording dates as well. And actually, they all seem to be the same right now, March 2nd, 2020. You can search in the entire chain if you would like to at one time. So search in all of these areas if you would like to. I'll try to refrain from calling them counties. Thank you. But I'll just do most of my searching in Honolulu today. But certainly select as many as you like. You're still allowed a limit of 8, but since we only serve 5 different regions for you, we'll just always be able to search in your entire coverage area if you'd like to. Next, I also just want to point out something I kind of skipped. What you were looking at, or the way you've sort of navigated around Realist before, you've always had the ability to kind of customize the screen. You can hide this search section. You can come up here to the split map and list views. Nothing's really changed here. You can make Realist one big map. You can make Realist one big list if you want to. You can go back to a split view. You can even click here in the middle and sort of make things larger or smaller depending on how much real estate you'd like to give yourself on your computer screen to view certain things. But again, everything kind of works in conjunction with each other. This is the way I kind of like to have my screen set up for the most part. And then there are 2 different tabs here, Quick Search and My Search. Quick Search really hasn't changed all that much. If you're coming into Realist and you're looking for one specific property, you likely have an address, an owner name, an MLS number, or a TMK number to find those particular properties or that particular property. A couple things that we have done, or that we still do, I should say, is we still do employ our search operators. Is or starts with being our wildcard, where that's the general setting or the default setting for most of these search attributes. So if you're only able to spell the first 2 letters of somebody's name, or the first 2 numbers of an MLS number, the first 2 elements of an address, with that starts with wildcard on, you'll find those properties that start with those first 2 letters or those first 2 numbers. We still use the plus sign down here, and that allows you to search for a specific MLS number. And if you want to search for more than one at a time, hit that plus sign, add another one, and hit that plus sign, add a third one. You can just keep doing this as much as you'd like. You can take these out individually just by hitting these trash icons too. Lastly, just sort of a nice little housekeeping item, we've allowed you to now zip these up. So if you just want to hide some of these search attributes and only work with 1 or 2 of them at a time, you can zip them up or roll them out at your leisure if you'd like to too. I'll move over to the My Search tab next, where a couple things have changed. If you go into Realist today, you'll see we have a number of icons up here. One allows you to create a search. Another allows you to save a search. Another allows you to clear your searches out. Another is a folder where all of your searches are stored. As you can see, some things have moved around. Save really is in the same exact spot. Clear searches is now down here at the bottom. That clears out anything in your search boxes, anything in your grid, anything on your map. And if you wanted to create a new search, the best way to do that is to click the Customize Search button. So that opens a new window where we still get that folder where all my searches are stored. Now, the ones with locks on them are administrative searches. These are the searches that are available to you the first time and every single time anybody comes into Realist. We've created these for you. You can't save over them. You can't erase them. They're just there kind of permanently. That's why they have a lock on them. Certainly, you can build off of them. Here's a search I created myself. That's going to be a search that I use for a little that I use today in my demo. And here's the ability to create a new search. So you just click on Create New Save Search. Start selecting any of your search attributes, and we've tried to organize them into logical sections like owner information, geographical areas, physical characteristics, listing information, and of course, all categories. So create whatever kind of search you want. If you want to create it temporarily, just hit apply. But if you'd like to save it and use it again and again, hit the save button over here, and then it'll show up in this folder up here at the top. So that's how you can create searches. And again, you can create searches with just search attributes in them and no data in them, or search template with values. That's where you can actually create searches with information stored in it previously. So for example, I'll cancel out of here. And my 3478 Keahi search, what you'll see as I scroll down has a lot of search attributes. You get down a little bit lower, and there's my house number, 3478. And then there's my street name down there too. Now I'm going to run that search. We're going to try and find that property. And you'll see we're going to get a little push pin showing you exactly where the property is. We're also going to give you some information down here in the one-line view showing you where a little bit of information about that property. And since it is an actively listed property, as you can see here, there's photos associated with it too. We'll talk more about those in a bit. But here's one of many places where you can actually click, go back into Matrix, and get the whole listing history for this property too. That's where our reverse link feature works. So here's all the different listings that this property has had dating back a good long ways. We'll close out of here. And from here, what I'll do is there's a number of different places and a number of different ways I can get to a property detail report. I can click on reports down here. Notice I've got my pop-up. We'll talk more about that when we get to the maps in a moment too, and I can click on report here. But I can also just double click on the grid, and that opens a property detail report. So we were taking a look at this earlier when I just did a couple of those early clicks out of Matrix, but here's again that property detail report, and since this home is actively listed, we have photos stored for that property, and here are 13 of them. So you can scroll through these if you want to. Again, these are just the photos that the agent has uploaded into Matrix for this property, and if you'd like to scroll through them here, again, we pull these in on a nightly basis. But you can scroll through them. You can print them from here. You can even email them out to people if you want to as well. And again, if a change was made to these listing photos, generally we'll pick those up within about 24 hours in Realist. Now let's go through these different sections of this report in Realist. First of all, the rest of next to this photo is the property summary. As you can see, particularly when a property is listed, some information is coming in from the listing. In some cases, the information is just coming in from the tax roll too, but it's a combination of data there. Another nice little housekeeping item here is you can still zip up these different sections of the reports too. Notice I'm just sort of rolling them out and zipping them up by using these little arrows next to them. But we'll move down through these sections now. You can see who owns this property, their tax billing address, or where they get their tax information sent each year, 3478 Keahi Place, which does match up to the physical address of this property too, which leads us to believe that it is an owner-occupied property. You've got information about your land tenure here too, tax billing zip, and a couple of other things too, but that's what allows you to kind of find information about who owns that property and where they live full time. Location information, you've got your zip code, your mailing carrier route, a census tract, the region, the subdivision where this property is located as well. Your zoning, your neighborhood codes. Here's all of your flood zone information as well in this location information section. Your tax information, you've got your TMK number and your lot number. Notice the TMK number is hyperlinked. Just like it does today, this will link out to your county website as well, where basically we're pulling a lot of this information from here into Realist directly from the county. There's your building sketches, which I'll show you more about in a bit, sales information, tax information. So here's just a link out to your county website that you can see. But we've got all that information stored for you within Realist as well. Here's your assessment and tax table next. That's where you really get into the details of the taxes. We've got the 3 most recent years of taxes and assessments, and it's a rolling 3-year period. So as 2020's assessments do roll in, you'll see 2017's roll kind of drop off of there. And you also see we'll give you the dollar and percentage change year over year with those assessments and with those taxes as well, that same 3-year rolling period with taxes too. Next, we'll move into the physical characteristics of this home, and you can see things, for example, like the size of the lot, the year the property was built, the building square footages. Notice when I mouse over some of these fields, and there's roughly 10 of them, if we match compared to what we're getting from the tax roll and what we're getting from the listing, both of us agree that this house was built in 1962, we show you the one value, but we do show you we're getting it from 2 different sources. Now, when there are discrepancies, we'll also show them a lot more explicitly. You'll see that according to the tax roll, this is a 5-bedroom house. According to the listing agent, this is a 3-bedroom house. So again, we don't tell you who's right or who's wrong. We just show you that what the county says is one thing, what the listing agent says is another, and we leave it up to your discretion as to which value you feel more comfortable using. But here's everything else that you need to know about the physical composition of this particular property, whether it comes to square footages, building materials, building shape, number of bathrooms, land use codes. That's all right here in that section. Here's where we'll pull any or show any building permits that have been pulled for this property. Here's one from 1999. Also, sometimes we'll get information in the extra features section. So sometimes you'll get some square footage is broken out. Sometimes I see information here about outbuildings or pools or spas or porches, and you'll get the different sizes that are available for you there in the features section too. Next is something brand new, something that you haven't seen in Realist before. You certainly won't see it today, but you will start seeing it next week, and that is our sell score indicator. This is something CoreLogic has done for a long time, but we've never placed it in the Realist product. This number indicates the relative likelihood that a property is going to be listed for sale within the next 6 months, and you see where it falls in these different sort of sections here. Ranks from 0 to 1,000, 1,000 being the highest, 0 being the lowest. But this is where about the likelihood that we think this property might be listed in the very near future in that sell score indicator. And a lot of information goes into that. A lot of data goes into that particular number. Market trends data, information that we get from the IRS, Housing and Urban Development, Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, even our estimated values or our AVMs that we place in this property factor into that as well. Speaking of AVMs, I'll scroll down a little bit lower. Here is the estimated value that we've placed on this property, or what we call a real AVM. Real standing for realist, AVM standing for automated valuation model. So we think this house is worth about $1.39 million. We think that's what it would sell for if it were to sell today. We give you a range between which we think it might sell as well, and the last time we calculated that value, which is just about a week ago. We then tell you exactly what we think about those scores. The confidence score and the forecast standard deviation are very well explained down here in the footnotes at the bottom. But just to sort of read through this in layman's terms, we think there's a 75% chance this property is going to sell between plus or minus 4% of $1.39 million. Now, we'd love to see confidence scores of 100 and forecast standard deviations of 0. That would mean with 100% certainty, within the dollar, we're telling you exactly what this property is going to sell for. We don't, of course, don't pretend to be able to do that, but you will see confidence scores as high as the low 90s, and that's a pretty darn good forecast standard deviation. You won't see that many get too much lower than that. Now, keep in mind this estimated value and this sell score indicator are great tools at your disposal, but perhaps you may find times when you don't necessarily want to share this information with a client or with somebody looking at this report with you. I do want to point out that there's a customize view button up here. Kind of replaces what you used to see as the modify button down here at the bottom of this report, where you used to be able to change the different sections and whether or not you could see them. So for example, if I click on customize view, and I decide that I don't want to see the propensity to sell score, and I don't want to see the estimated value, I can just hit the X's on those, hit apply, and now we've just got my extra features, and I go right down into my listing information. So now if you went to print this report, if you went to email this report, if somebody's looking over your shoulder at this report, nobody's ever going to see those sections of that particular report when it comes to the sell score or the estimated value. Keep in mind, you have to put those back if you ever hope to see them again on any other report in Realist or in any other property detail report, I should say. So if you go to look at another property and you've had those removed, they won't come back until you actually put them back yourself, and there they are. So again, we said this house is worth about $1.39 million. Here it is being listed for $1.4 million. So that seems like it's a relatively good estimated value we put on that property. Also, if you click on this listing number, yet again, it's another place where the reverse link feature takes place, and you can go back into Matrix and find that entire detail listing history for this particular property. I'll close out of there, and of course, Realist is still open behind the scenes. Here is that entire listing history down here at the bottom in sort of snapshot form, just some basics. Of course, you've got much more information available to you in Matrix if you want to go back there. And here's where some of the navigation things have changed a bit. We used to have some arrows up here at the top that allowed you to go back and forth to the left and right. Now we've got this slider down here at the bottom and also this arrow here too. So that's the way you navigate back and forth when there's a little bit more out to the right that we can't show you in just one sort of screenshot right there. Next, we'll move down and we'll get out of your listing information and start talking about your last market sale and sales history. So here's the last time, or the last arm's length transaction that occurred on this property. And when I say arm's length, I mean that money needs to have changed hands. We will show nominal sales, as you see down here, when just names change on the deed and no money changes hands. But we'll also not show those up here in the last market sales section, only down here in sales history. By the way, if I click on this document number, that's another place where when you click on that, you will actually get the copies of the deeds themselves. So whenever you see that in the mortgage section, in the sales section, just by clicking on one of those document numbers, you will be able to pick up an actual PDF copy of that deed although it is taking a little bit of time loading right now. I know there's a lot of information stored behind there. Let's just give it another couple of seconds. There we are. And there is your deed, which you don't even need to go down to the county courthouse and get. So there's everything you would need for the deed for this property. So I'll close out of there. Next, we'll move down to the sales history section where, again, we're going to repeat that one sale because, again, we've had a nominal sale that occurred on this property, just a name changed on the deed there. That's why we've got that quick claim deed. And then here's that sale again that occurred in 2000 where it was $490,000 sale. And again, you can usually see what's going on with this property. In this case, I see a couple of things going on. It looks like when I see First Federal Savings and Loan, and then I see the Bank of Hawaii, that leads me to believe that maybe there was a foreclosure on this property at some point in the past. So again, usually you can do a little detective work, not only on the sales history for these properties, but also with the mortgage history for these properties as well. For example, so when there was a sale on this property, you can see exactly which mortgages were taken out. So here was a mortgage that was taken out and for $534,000 back in 2012, back in 08. Back in 06, back in 04. Since we see the purchase date on this property is 2004, we can kind of assume who these mortgages belong to. Also keep in mind on these mortgages, we're only showing you mortgage originations, no remaining balances or anything along those lines. We won't show if they've been sold to another mortgage company either. So we can just kind of give you a good idea of what the equity history is in that house when it was first purchased. And of course, you could scroll all the way out to the right. We've got mortgage information in this case on this property dating all the way back to 2000. Lastly, down here at the bottom, there is a property map. This is going to let you know the estimated lot dimensions for this property. I would stress they're only based on the GIS data we get from the county that we place on the maps. Those are estimates. And then over here on the right-hand side, we'll let you know where that property is located, compared to some major cross streets, other types of things that are in the area too. So that's your property detail report. That is the flagship report in Realist. A ton of information to cover there, pretty much everything that you'll really need to know about that property right there. But let's go and take a look at some of these other tabbed reports across the top now. And I'm going to start with a comparables report. And when I click on that comparables button, automatically I come up with 10 comps. Now, the question, first of all, might be, why did I come up with those 10 comps at once? And a good answer to that is found over here in the search criteria button. Again, we've got a search criteria and a customized view over here, kind of replacing that modify button that used to be down here at that report, where again, you could change what you're seeing on this report. If you want to hide the map, you could. But you can also look at the search criteria, the underlying search preferences that are behind this comp report, including how are we sorting these comps when they're returned. Mine are distance from subject, closest to furthest. If we're pulling in my comps, I'm pulling them in from both tax data and MLS data. The more different sources I pull in my data from, the better my comp report's going to look. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory as far as they kind of pertain to the comps that you want to return. If you're comping a property with a pool, you might want to insist that other comps you return also have pools. How far out would you like to go to find these comps? When you are finding comps, should they have sold between a certain amount, high and low? Should they have been built between certain years? Should they have a certain number of bedrooms, bathrooms, or stories? I tend to leave those blank and kind of like let the cards fall where they may, and I kind of filter through my results when I get done with these. Would you like to include any distress sales in your comps? Should they be kept within a specific geographic boundary like a zip code, a city, or a subdivision? Should they have a certain site influence, waterfront, beachfront, anything else? How far back should we go to find my comps? Right now I'm going 12 months back from the current date. If you're an appraiser and you need to go back more than 12 months, use this date range button down here and use our handy calendar icon, and you can go back as many years as you'd like to find comps if you'd like. Living and building area difference right now is set to 15%. That means if I was comping a 1,000 square foot home right now, I wouldn't return any comps that are larger than 1,150 or smaller than 850 square feet. You can even select your high and low values from these drop downs and select a specific square foot range you'd like to keep your comps within as well. Now, lot area is left blank for me right now. You can change that if you'd like and set it to anything you want. But since it's left blank, if I'm comping a property on a 1-acre parcel right now, I could return a comp down the street on a 10-acre parcel because I've not asked to keep it within that specific percent range of that subject property. Style is one I always recommend against people using. We don't always get the information from the county because they don't always collect it on the style of a property. So if you are looking specifically for cabins or bungalows or anything else, if we don't get that information from the county and you're searching for a comp based strictly on its style, you may not find any comps at all. So I usually recommend people to stay away from that one. Now, land use code, I always recommend to keep the same as subject. If you're comping a single family residential home, you'd likely like to return other single family residential homes as comps. Same for a condo or anything else, so I like to leave those. Now, save and submit will change anything that you just changed in these comparable search criteria for this comp report and all comp reports going forward that you run in the future. Submit will just change it this one time and leave your comp preferences alone for the next time you run a comp report. But I'll just cancel out of here because I've made no choices or made no changes. A couple other things that you can do here in the comp report that you weren't able to do before. We can click and drag like we do on the normal map. You can even make the comp report one big map or one big list to make these easier to scroll through if you want to as well. You can even hide that summary statistics section as well. Now, here's another thing I want to point out about the comparables report in Realist as compared to the one that you might run in Matrix. Notice that all of these properties I have coming up have little icons next to them and indicate these properties have been sold through the MLS. You can even link back into Matrix and find them, with the exception of this one. So here's a property that sold according to the county records, but has not sold according to anything in Matrix. This is a great way to pull in potentially for sale by owners, or if there's a competing MLS in your area and it's been processed through another MLS, you can find it there as well. But again, that's a great way to take a look at those. The rest of these columns just let you know if the property is in any sort of stage of foreclosure. You can sort these columns just by clicking on the headers up here. You can even move these columns in either direction if you want to, or make them wider or narrower, and those types of things are saved automatically. You know, one of the things I do is I take a look at the price per square foot. I've got 10 comps. Maybe I'd like to narrow it down. Here's a property that's selling for $1,000 per square foot. That seems rather high. You know, maybe I'll take that one out. You know, here's another one that's selling for, $806 per square foot. Maybe I'll take that one out. Let's go back to my split view and let's kind of scroll down into my subject property again. You know, you can see where these comps are located. Number 6 at this point, sort of out of the neighborhood. Maybe that's not a great comp for me either. Maybe I'll take that one out. So now I'm down to 7 different comps, kind of nice and clustered near my subject property. Let's hit Generate Comp Report. And that will give you your comp report itself, where again, we've got the interactive map showing you where that property is located, the search criteria we used to find those comps. Here's some summary statistics, subject property, the high, low, median, and average values for your comps. And then here's your comp report itself. Subject property on the left, comps 1, 2, 3, and 4 out to the right. That's that one property that wasn't listed through the MLS, so we've got no photos for it. And then we've got even more comps out here to the right that you can see too, and those are all the primary photos for those particular properties. Scrolling down a little bit lower, you can see nice column and row format. We're comparing these properties back and forth. When they print, you will always print with the subject property on the left, and then comps 1, 2, and 3 out to the right. And then the next page will be the subject property on the left and comps 4, 5, and 6 out to the right. If you don't like the comps you've selected, come over here to Edit Report, and you can always take one out, put another in, and rerun that comp report if you want to anytime you like. So that's basically your comp report. Next, I'll click on the neighbors report. I won't spend too much time on this report. Really, the output is exactly the way you'd expect to see it in the comparables report. There's the map. There's your subject property, neighbors 1, 2, 3, and 4 out to the right. All this report is really doing is finding your 10 nearby closest neighbors a maximum of 3 miles away. You can keep them on the same street or the same city or any of those other geographical modifications if you want to. But in this case, as you can see, it's finding me all 10 of my properties on that same street that are nearest to this home. I call it more of a buyer's tool than anything else. If you've got somebody looking to buy this property and they want to see what's going on with other people in the area when they bought, how much their taxes are, how much their assessments are, kind of your nosy neighbors report, for lack of a better word. But that's that neighbors report for you. Next, I'll click on to the neighborhood profile report. Now in the neighborhood profile report, you're getting all the same data that we showed you in Realist today. It's just packaged a little bit more nice and slick. So most of this information is coming from the US Census, and it's aggregated on the zip code where these properties are located, in this case for this particular property. So you can see here's your population summary, estimated population since 2010, median age, average household size, population distribution by age in this zip code, also by gender and by marital status. Coming down further, basic housing stats, median home sale price, median year built, how many homes are rented, how many homes are owned, how many homes are vacant. Of people who are paying rents in this county, what are they paying for a 1, 2, 3, or 4 bedroom? Where do people work? Household income each year? How do people commute to work every day? What's the weather in the area? What sort of level of education have people attained in the area as well? And that's all U.S. Census data. Now, scrolling down further, now we're getting into information about schools and businesses, as we've always done on this report too. Now, these schools are showing up because they're within a specified radius that I set for this particular property. So if you scroll out to the right here, you can see again, we've got some stats, all these different schools, how many students per teacher, and a couple of ratings. One is going to be 1 through 5 stars from schooldigger.com on how the kids did on their state standardized test scores that year, or the previous year, I should say. And the community rating is a place on schooldigger.com where people can go out from the community, whether they're teachers or parents or past students, and they can rate those schools on 1 through 5 stars as well. So here's my public elementary, public middle, and high. Here's some private schools too. I'll show you how you can change all those settings. And here's my local businesses that I've asked to find within a specified radius of this home too. So here's some attractions, automotive services, banks, places to eat and drink. And you see we give you names, addresses, phone numbers, the distance it is from the subject property, and a description of what that business is. Yet again, come up to this Customize View button, and you can eliminate any of these sections of these reports if you want to. If you don't want to see the businesses or the schools, just take them out. Also, you can come up here to the search criteria, and that's how you get to the underlying preferences behind this report. How far out did I ask to find businesses? I asked to go 2 miles, but I also asked to make it only 15 businesses per category. Otherwise, it gets to be a very long list. And here are all the different types of businesses that I asked to return, and you can check them, and they show up here in the selected section. Just hit the X to get rid of them if you don't want to find out where the farms are or anything else. Same thing with schools. I asked to find all my schools within a 2-mile radius, both public and private. And here are all the different educational institutions I've asked to find, all the way from pre-K all the way up to grad school if you want to. And I've selected everything, as you can see. So that's your neighborhood profile report. Really quickly, I actually want to point out the print and email buttons right now. Print and email basically are the same as they were. We're still dealing with PDF outputs in Realist. So if I choose print and then quick print, I'm generating a PDF for the report that I'm on right now, which in this case is the neighborhood profile report. So I'll go ahead and I'll open this. And now I've got a PDF showing you all the same information I just went over on this particular report. And now if you want to, you can print this. You can save this if you want to, email it off to somebody using your Outlook or using your Gmail, anything like that. But there is also an email button down here too, where if I hit quick email, you can actually email these directly out of Realist as PDF attachments. Just make sure you put in a reply to address, so any replies that you send to somebody go back to the email address you specified. And then put in a to, carbon copy somebody like yourself if you want to, even put in a blind carbon copy. We do take the liberty of putting in a generic subject header line that says Realist report. You can change that. And it also tells you who emailed this to you and what it is that they're emailing to you. And then, of course, you've got the ability to play with your signature down here at the bottom, just some basic formatting you can do and put in your signature if you want to at the bottom of that email too. So that's really it for the neighborhood profile report. Oh, print and email, I did not show you. Customize. If you click on Customize, it gives you a choice of how many reports you would like to email or print out. And of course, remember, I've been showing you in that customized view how you can hide different sections of those reports. So really, it's completely within your control as to how many reports you'd like to share with somebody and how much information you'd like to share within each of those reports. So very customizable by you, the realtor. With that said, I'll move on to my next report, and that's going to be the assessor maps. No big changes here. We really still do store those assessor maps as those TIFF files. So they're going to open up in whatever program is associated with opening up a TIFF.tif file extension. I use Windows Photo Viewer. Maybe some of you might use Photoshop, things like that. But here you are. Here's where I would stress to use any of the legal lot dimensions for these properties. You've got the square footages, you've got the lot numbers, and a lot of other vital information that you probably want to pull off of these assessor maps. So these are still available to you to open up anytime that you want. Next, I'll move over to the building sketches. Building sketches are available for you as well, and there they are. You can even change the size of them if you want to too, and you can kind of play with those to make it bigger or smaller if you like. And that is pretty much everything having to do with your reports. With that said, let me hit the back button and we'll go back out to the maps. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make Realist one big map. Before I do that, I also want to point out the responsive design on Realist as well. I remember telling you in that PowerPoint a moment ago how there's really no need for a Realist mobile app anymore or anything like that. What you can do now is you can access Realist from a mobile device. So let's shrink this window down to, say, basically the size of a phone. So right now, you've still got access to your quick search and your my search. I can still change my counties and add or remove counties if I want to from here. I can run a search. And when I find that property, it puts it on the map for me. Here's what it looks like on a list view. Very easy to scroll through. Great for an iPhone. You know, you can just press these things that you need to. Going back to the map, you've still got access to all the map tools I'm going to show you as well. So just wanted to point out that, of course, you can still access now, or now you can access, I should say, Realist from a mobile device if you'd like to. And of course, I will point out again, even though I mentioned it at the beginning of today's session, no more flash associated with Realist. So you can pull it up on an iPad. You can pull it up on an iPhone now. No problems at all. With that said, let's click on this map and let's show you a couple of things that we can do with this pop-up. First of all, if the property's been listed, a couple of things we can do. We can go out to the photos for this property. I can even click on this direct link to the MLS and yet again link back into Matrix and get into the listing history for that particular property. You can also quickly zoom down into that property by clicking on the magnifying glass. This is a good place for me actually to show you some of our map views as well. Here's our satellite views. So very good satellite imagery we have. Also, hybrid views give you the added bonus of throwing the street names on top of those satellite views. And what's I think going to be very easy to see is let's check out this new terrain view where you can again see what's going on in terms of terrain so you know whether or not you're in a valley or whether or not you're at the top of a mountain. You're not just looking at a flat map anymore. So that terrain map can always turn over to a road map too. Last thing I wanted to show you on that pop-up is you can also estimate those lot dimensions directly on those interactive maps too. Another thing that's great about the maps, and I mentioned the GIS data we have stored behind these properties. If you click on the next door neighbor, you can find out more about that property just by clicking on the rooftops there. So again, this is a property that's never been listed. I've got quick zoom, I've got the ability to estimate my lot dimensions, but no photos, no ability to link back into the MLS because this property doesn't appear to have ever been listed through the MLS. Again, click down here on the property over on the other side and you can see what's going here. If you want to find out what's going on across the street, it's literally that walk the block feature that I like to really point out about Realist. So with that said, and taking a look at the basics of the map, what I'd like to do now is show you a couple of these map tools up here up top. All of these map tools used to be over here on the right-hand side. They've now all moved up to the top of the map. And we'll start with the drawing directions. Drawing directions is something I kind of like to show in conjunction with talking about some of the marketing features that I show in Realist, because it's a great way to do a very targeted search. You can draw a shape and only find properties located within that shape. So I usually, in this case, set up a hypothetical situation where I'm a new realtor in the area and I've just sold this property and I'd like to drum up more business in this neighborhood and let people in this immediate neighborhood know that I've just sold your neighbor's house, got top dollar for it. And if you're looking to list your property in the near future, I'm the person you should call and you should list your property with me. So we can draw a circle or a rectangle around the people that I'd like to market to, but instead let's draw a polygon shape because then you can get very specific about where you'd like to draw. Maybe I don't want to find anybody, to the east of this street. We'll come down a little bit over here and I'll just include again specific people that I really want to market to. So you can see now I've drawn a very unique shape. Maybe that's exactly where I know I want to market to. The other thing that we've done over here now, if you notice, we've added something called Polygon 1 to my search. And things like zip code, city, they're blanked out. Notice these search attributes are not available when I've drawn a shape. I'm only searching within the confines of this shape right here, right now, not within a city or a zip code. Also, if I want to change the name of that shape, just click on it and you can see the size of the shape that I drew. You can delete it from here if you want to as well. Oh dear, clicking too many times. But I can just take out this and maybe I want to call it anything I want. In this case, I'll just call it my Hawaii Central shape. And you can see it's renamed it over here. I can even save these searches with these shapes attached to them too. Now, right now, in this search box, I'm only looking for a property at 3478 Keahi. So I'm going to take that out and see what happens down here under View Results as I do that. it's count on the fly now. So now before I even run this search, I know in this shape I'm going to come up with 112 different people. Now that's a lot of different folks to be mailing to. So maybe I'm going to target this marketing campaign a little bit. Remember, we talked about this being a just sold mailing. I'm going to let people know that I just sold this property and they should list their property with me in the near future. What would probably really help me out if I found people who've lived in their house for enough time that they're considering even selling their house. So rather than look at this is between, I'm going to change this to is less than. I'm going to go into recording date and put in January 1st, 2010. Watch view results, goes down to 28 matches, much more targeted marketing campaign. I'm now looking for people in that shaded area that haven't had a recorded sale on their property in the past 10 years. All those people have lived in their homes for 10 years. Maybe they're willing to list their property with me at some point in the future. Also want to point out that these different colors on the balloons here, green is going to indicate active, red is going to indicate this property as a sold sale has been processed through the MLS, black is going to indicate these properties are here, but again, they've never had a sale through the MLS, or at least they don't right now. So not only are they here on the map, they're down here on the split view too. I can scroll down a little bit. You might not want to include, for example, an actively listed property. You wouldn't want to step on your fellow realtor's toes. Click and check however many of these you want. I'm down to 27 different results. And now let's just click the labels button down here at the very bottom, where we still give you the same 3 across 10 down, 2 across 10 down, or 2 across 7 down Avery. So if you have any of those different types of labels, feel free to put them in your printer. You can use mixed case or all capital letters. I would use the tax billing address in the case of this mailing I'm doing right now. I'm doing a just sold mailing. I want to reach the people who are authorized to sell these homes, which aren't necessarily always the people who live in these homes. If you send to a property address, you could reach renters or a vacant home potentially. Now I'm going to click on show current owner. We're going to pull that right off the deed. I'm going to click on include foreign addresses. If we've got people in different countries that own properties in this neighborhood, we will address those too. Eliminate duplicate labels. Inevitably, if you're doing a massive mailing, you might come across a landlord or even a builder that owns more than one property. And if you don't want to print out 10 different labels for all 10 different homes that that person owns, just click on eliminate duplicate label. We'll print out one label for that person. Or you can even put your own customized salutation in here too. I'll put the old current, if I can spell right, I'll put the old current resident, and we'll add that to my label too. Now, each of you are allowed 10,000 exports per person per month, and they do reset at the beginning of each calendar month. When you go to create them, they still do come out in what we call .rtf, rich text format. So that's the kind of file that is. Basically, it's not a .doc. It's not going to only open in Word. So if you're using Word, if you're using Pages, if you're using WordPerfect, all of those things are going to work to open these up for you. And now here's my labels. So with that just quick little drawing exercise, finding some properties that haven't sold in the past 10 years, I've now got a nice little marketing campaign. I can put my labels in the printer, print them out, affix them to my postcards or to my envelopes, and we're ready to do that. Now I'm going to close out of here, and what happens when you do that is those aren't saved anywhere. So we don't save them anywhere in Realist. You'd have to export them again, so just keep that in mind when you're doing any of those exports. Speaking of exports, I'll move from labels over to export down here, where if you don't want to do labels, you can export this information into a spreadsheet if you like. Quick is going to export all of the columns of data you see in your view right now for all the properties you have checked on the left here. Customize gives you a lot more leeway where you can actually export this information into a spreadsheet. For example, click on create new export, and all of a sudden I've got over 126 different fields of data that I can export for up to 3,000 properties at one time. All you have to do is just put a new export name in here and then save it, and you can use it again and again as a template. But in this case, I've got some templates that I've already pre-saved in here. One is a mail export mailing address. And based on what I'm doing right now, that's what I'll want to export. So here's everything I need. I'll hit export. It's going to open up in a CSV format this time. And once it does that, I'll come down here to the lower left, open it up. It's going to open up in Excel for me. And now here's everything I need to mail those people. If I want to send this off to a mail house, if I want to do a mail merge, if you were exporting other data like sales or foreclosures or taxes, you could run pivot tables and take a look at all those trends. But again, we're reaching these people where they live, whether they live in Honolulu or whether they live somewhere else, and these are vacation homes for them. We're going to find the owners of these properties too. So I'll close out of here. Oh, there's somebody on the no mail list, by the way. I think I saw them right there. But I'll close out of here. And let's just sort of recenter myself on my Keahi neighborhood again, just so I can remember exactly where I am. We'll make Realist one big map again. Let's scroll out just a little bit and let's show you a couple of different things. So I've looked at the drawing tools already. Let's now look at some of these boundaries, and a lot of these boundaries are custom made for Hawaii Central as well. So not this one particularly, neighborhood boundaries. These are just some neighborhood boundaries we have for you. I'll also load up things like zip code and city. You can put up to 6 different layers on the map at one time. I start getting a little bit confused when I get this many on at one time. Another thing that happens, and this is another new thing that we've added to Realist, you used to have all these layers on and maybe you couldn't remember exactly which ones you had turned on and you had to go hunting for them. Now, not only does it tell you exactly which ones you have turned on, but you can turn them off from right here at the very bottom of the map. So I think that's a nice new feature that we've added. And additionally, here's your flood zone codes. So those will show up. You can see we probably are near a creek or somewhere down here. And you can see flood zone code of X, AE, X500. So we'll let you know exactly what flood zone codes are near these properties. I'll turn that off. And now here we're getting into the ones that are completely customizable, or we're completely custom layers for this particular account. So here's your annual rainfall. Obviously, the higher up we go, the more rain that we're getting. Your contours are over here too. Give you an idea of the elevation. You can see how steep it's going to get next to that property off here to the left. Fire response zones, we can load those up. High school districts. That one not necessarily custom, but you can see exactly what high school district all these properties are located in too. Lava zones, mostly for the Big Island. I'll skip that one for now. Here's a custom neighborhood overlay that we've done for you. Here's your pit codes, for example, as well. Here's your special management areas. I think I may need to scroll out a bit to find those. Yep, I do. Subplats. Subdivisions. And then even your tsunami evacuation zones as well. So we'll turn those off for now. Next, let's zoom a little closer back into my property. Scroll out a bit so we can get a good look at this neighborhood potentially. But that's all of your boundaries. Next, I'm going to move over to property and sales information. We'll start with sales and values, and I'm going to look at all the tax sales in the past 12 months. These are sales according to the tax record, not necessarily estate sales. These are just sales that have happened according to the county in the past 12 months. If you want to see sales that were processed specifically through your MLS, come down here to MLS status. And for example, everywhere that there was a red sign, there's now a red balloon overlaying it, except for a couple. So everywhere you see a red sign means there's a sale according to the county, but no red balloon, no sale according to the MLS. That's a great way to find private sales as well. So you can find that these were sales that didn't necessarily go through your MLS. Also, if you want to see what the rest of the inventory is like in your neighborhood here, you can again look at the green for active, orange for pending, purple for expired, and red for sold, and those will all start showing up. Here's a green one. Of course, you can see my subject property still showing up there too. We'll turn those off. Next is property characteristics. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit closer on this particular property. And you can also see that what we can do is we can put different property locations up on top of these properties too. So for example, if you wanted to see the bedroom and bathroom count for all these properties, you can click on there and you can load those up and you'll get to see exactly where those are. Here, let me turn a couple of things off here. Sorry, I seem to have frozen up here for a moment. Thank you for your patience. Here, let me hit refresh. There we are. Turn those off. Go back down into my subject property. We'll zoom down nice and close. Again, make Realist one big map. Show you some of those property characteristics that we wanted to put on top of there. So for example, bedroom and bathroom count can show up on all these properties if you'd like to. Or the owner name can show up on all these properties if you'd like to as well. So easy to load those up. Location information will show you, for example, where fire stations, lifeguards, hotels. I think if I click on hotels and I get down into Waikiki a little bit, you'll get to see where a couple of those are. There they are. So like, for example, there's all your hotels. I've just used that by clicking on the location information down here. Again, you can look at a lot of other different things too. Let's also look at some trends. So for example, if I want to look at the median sale price and I want to aggregate that by zip code, you can see exactly where properties are selling for more versus selling for less. And again, all kind of spelled out for you down here in this little legend. So again, those warmer colors are going to indicate higher levels of sale prices. Cooler colors going to indicate lower levels of sale prices. You can not only aggregate those by zip code, but also by neighborhood. I find that they look a lot better for the most part in zip code. Sometimes it's hard for us to aggregate some of that information. You'll get some of those blank spots there when you use the neighborhood, but I do like to use those. If you also want to see, for example, where the sales activity is highest, you can look at those too. And you can even look at different property types. So either single family residential homes, condos, or both types. And then the opacity scale allows you to kind of scroll back and forth and make the underlying map a little bit easier or a little bit harder to find. We'll turn those off for now. Points of interest are next. You can put as many of these on the map at one time as you like. So I can click a lot of these. And then these are coming from Google Maps. I'll then again scroll kind of close down into Honolulu, see if we can find some different things. I'll show you what some of these icons are going to look like. Usually I have to scroll around a bit to find them. See if I can't find any hotels or anything like that. There we are. So for example, there's a medical office. There's your high school. There's your 7-Eleven. Here's a bank. And again, addresses and titles for all those, even ratings too, so you can see exactly where all those different places of business are located. So very easy to check those. And again, you can even print out these maps and send them to people and let people know where these facilities are. Driving directions are right here. So if you want to find out how long it takes to get from point A to point B, for example, I can put in 3748, Keahi, and then I will, for example, maybe go up to the North Shore, and we'll go to 5841. Oops, couldn't spell that right. Up in Haleiwa. And there's your turn-by-turn directions, how you get from point A to point B. These can be emailed to somebody if you're trying to tell people how to get from one place to another. And of course, I can just clear them out too if I want to as well. Another thing that you can do, if you ever go to print what you're looking at right now, if I go to print this map, I get a couple of choices. I can print my reports. I can print a map and a table. I can just print the map or the table or the card view, which I'll show you more about in a minute. But let's just show you how when I print this map, it's going to generate a PDF. And for example, whatever you see on the map at any given time is exactly what's going to show up on the PDF for that map too. So if I've got a layer or anything else showing, what you see is what you get whenever you print anything out in Realist 2. So I'll clear those out for now. Let us take a look at a couple others. Here's locate on the map. So for example, if I wanted to find a specific place on the map, you can put an address in here, but what I always find is you can actually, put in things that you might not normally be able to find otherwise. So if I put in Pearl Harbor, for example, we'll put a push pin right on top of that and we'll find it. So you can find, again, parks, mountains, schools, things like that. Great way to find property information on the or information about places on the map. And you can even use this ruler if you'd like to know how far it is from point A to point B, and then you actually can keep clicking if you want to and see how long it takes to get from one point to the other or how far it is, and then just double click to finish up that line. Once you click on it, you can actually see the total length of the line as well if you're looking to measure distances between different points. And lastly, there's also a little place to annotate the map where I can put a little bubble on the map, and if you're not sure where you are, I can let you know that here is Pearl Harbor, and we'll let you know exactly where that is too. And again, you can just clear that out by hitting the delete button down here at the bottom. With that said, we're kind of done with the maps. Let me go back to a split view. I'm going to do a quick search just to sort of fill up the grid and show you how that works. I'm going to do a search for just an owner name. And we're going to show you all the push pins all over the island on the map, but we're also going to show you down here on the grid too. By the way, if I just click on a property and I find it on the grid, it pops it right up to the map too. So very nice for finding different places if you're looking for them on the grid and you find them on the map. Let's actually hide my search section. Let's make Realist one big map. And when I do that, or I should say one big list, when I do that, we change to our card view. I want to point out up here, we've got a couple of different tools. One is a table view. There's your one-line view that you're used to seeing in Realist today. Here is the new card view that we're showing to you as well. And if the properties happen to be listed, we get those primary listing photos. We're always going to show you, again, if the property was listed, the sale price. Always will show you down here the bedroom, the bathroom, and the square footages as well. And it will even give you the address. Now, there's a couple of fields in here, owner name, tax bill, and sale date, that you can change. You can customize these if you want. So if I click on Customize Cards, and I can change any of those three fields. Maybe I don't want the sale date on there, but instead I want to go to owner information, and I want to know if these homes are owner occupied, and we'll put that on those cards. I'll hit apply there, and now you can see whether or not these homes are or are not owner occupied. So very easy for you to change those. Another thing you can do in this card view, you can favorite these properties simply by clicking the stars next to them. So when you do that, they're added up here to your saved properties. Notice I've got a star and a little number 3 up here. When I click on it, lets me know that I've saved these properties and where they are. I can scroll up and down through them, or I can even click on Go to Saved Properties, and it will only show me my saved properties that I've saved from any time in the past. You can even take some of them out if you want to. So if you just want to save one and remove the rest, maybe this is the only saved property that I want to see, and then I can hit back, and I'm back to my full results list again. Let's switch it over to a one-line view. Not too much, again, has changed here. You can still move these different columns, or I should make them wider or narrower. You can still move them just by clicking and dragging in this way. A couple of different columns that don't have headers on them are going to let you know whether or not there's photos for the properties. Going to let you know whether or not they're listed, and of course clicking on this will get you back into Matrix, or let you know if there's any sort of foreclosure against these properties too. Lastly, if you want to click, for example, on any of the headers, you can, the default sort order is by your TMK number, as you can see, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4. But if I click on roll recording date, now I'm sorting ascending by date, 1980, 87, 88, 93. If I click again, I'm sorting descending, 20, 19, 18, 17. Or if I click again, we go back to our default sort order. Lastly, over here, you can also customize the table. If there's a column of data you're not seeing, come over here. Here are all the ones that are available for you. If you want to change the order of them, you can. And if you want to remove any, just hit the X over here next to them too. Lastly, down here at the bottom on the grid, we've already talked about exports and we've already talked about labels. So I think you guys know how those function. But if you click on print or email, a couple different things. You can either print the reports, the map and the table. See, there's 25 max there, so I actually can't print the reports right now. 50 max for the cards, but if you print the table, the map, or the map and table, you are unlimited. Email is the same thing. Same email client that I showed you before. Anything that you send is going to be a PDF attachment. Just don't forget to put in that reply to address there too. With that said, I think I'm done showing you everything on the grid. Let's just talk about a couple of housekeeping items, and then I will get to some of your questions. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, click on this gear, and you're able to get to a number of different search options. For example, whether or not you want to auto-open a property detail report when you only find one property that matches your criteria. Here's my mailing labels. Right now, I am allowing myself to display labels that are on the Do Not Mail list. If I uncheck this, I am filtering those out. Here is where you can include unmatched sale transactions in search results. That has to do with properties that we haven't matched up to the tax roll, perhaps because we've pulled we've gotten a deed, but maybe we haven't gotten the TMK number that allows us to match it up to the tax roll yet and tell you all the great physical information about that property. If you want to find properties like that, just make sure you have that box checked and have this set to Do Not Suppress. Another new upgrade for Realist is that we now allow you to return up to 3,000 records at one time. We used to only allow you to return 1,000. Now you can view 3,000 in the grid at one time. We'll go over to reports, and remember I kept clicking on the customize search button at the upper right of most of my reports. This is basically where you just also access those. Here's all of my preferences for the comparables report. Here's all of my preferences for the neighbors report, the neighborhood profile report, and the assessor maps as well. Here's where you can change your email signature if you want to. You saw that on the email pop-up. Here's where I can change it. On the map, you just have a whopping one selection. Would you like to show your parcel lines as a default as well? So heading back here, last thing I want to point out is this question mark. I know that we covered a lot of information very quickly, but there is a question mark up here. Here is all of our online help. So if you click on Getting Started, it opens up a new window, and you're on the Getting Started section. So finding your way around Realist, understanding my search, understanding the results in the map, setting your user preferences. If you click on Features Guide, we do a much more in-depth dive. So here's understanding searches, ways to work with the search results cards and how to work with those, your saved properties too. We also have video tutorials. If you have not gotten tired of listening to me for the past hour, hi, and welcome to this tutorial on Realist. You can go and listen to any of these video tutorials and listen to me in the privacy of your own home if you'd like. Additionally, not only are these here, and you can just sort of scroll through them using these little buttons down here at the bottom, they're also on our YouTube channel as well. So even though Realist is not live for you yet, again, we're going live on Tuesday, the 17th. That's when you'll see this new version of Realist. We still, on our YouTube channel today, which is available to you in Realist today, we do have access to all these videos for you to take a look at those too. With that said, folks, I'm going to end the recording, but just hold on because I do want to answer a lot of your questions, but I just want to end the recording today and thank all of you for coming out and using the new Realist. We'll get to your questions in just a moment.